se fue.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
And you're listening to The Krypton Report.
And you're listening to Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's the Krypton Report.
The All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Welcome to the Krypton Report. Today's episode is going to be fun because we have some extra people with us. As always, there is the man of might, the muscles upon muscles, the man whose own weights rack themselves at the gym. We're talking about Mr. James Cole. How's it going, James?
I'm pretty good. How's it going, Tyler?
I have a little bit of a head cold, and yes, people, it is a head cold. Believe me, this is day 3, and I'm almost out of it. And I know my body with colds. Since the temperature changed, it was 59 this morning when we decided to go on our morning hike. So it happens.
Yeah.
But did you hear that voice?
It's not like me. I actually did have it for a couple of weeks there.
You hear that, James? There's somebody else here. You want to say hi? Who are you guys?
Who's there?
It's me, Solomon. It's me, Sarah.
That's right. Today's episode, we are going to review Superman: Man of Tomorrow.
Yay!
The newest animated film from the DC film animated films. And Solomon wanted to talk, and Sailor wanted to talk with us. We've watched it twice now, haven't we, guys?
We haven't watched 2 times.
Yeah, we've watched it 2 times.
Mm-hmm. It was a really good movie. I think my favorite part...
Wait, hold on. We'll get there. How many times have you watched it, James?
I watched it twice.
Okay, so James has watched it twice as well. Now, I will say in honor of this film, I am drinking a cup of coffee from my Superman coffee maker with my Superman coffee mug that has a touch of cinnamon in it.
Because it really wakes the grounds up.
Yeah, it does actually. It does pretty well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So, Superman Man of Tomorrow, I think it's really great.
You think it's really great?
Yeah, me too.
Solomon keeps saying we have to watch it with Mommy, and we were going to, but we ran out of time before we could do the podcast. So we're actually recording this on the 5th, which is my brother's birthday. Happy birthday to my brother who never listens to this show. And what's odd is Amazon actually shipped me the physical copy early. It's not even supposed to. Physical copy is not supposed to drop till the 8th. So it's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. Wow. And it is sad actually.
So, but we've had a chance to enjoy the film. And one thing I'm going to tell you, James, right off the bat is from the physical copy. Remember how after Flashpoint Paradox, they started putting characters on the binding on the side?
Yeah. Even
for non-continuity films? Yeah, they're not doing that anymore.
Oh, no?
No, it's now like a picture snapshot from the film itself on the binding. So that's different.
My favorite part...
So, before we get started on the review, we're going to talk about just a little news. There's not a whole lot other than coming soon this weekend is going to be Fandom Part 2 on the 12th.
Yeah.
Yay!
And I was sitting the other day and I was like, man, they haven't said or done anything for this yet. And then all of a sudden yesterday, popping up on Facebook, on Twitter, and they started promoting it. And I'm happy because they have a filter now that you can ties to your Instagram, Facebook, or Snapchat that comic-fies your face with inside a Batman comic. Which I was cool because I'm not a Snapchat person. And when I do try to get on there and find filters, I have a horrible luck because supposedly there were supposed to be some filters from Fandom last time. And I could not find them. So I'm just glad it actually has filters for things I use.
Yeah, I after you said something about it, I looked and I didn't see them. So I was like, I don't know.
Snapchat has a certain place for certain people, and you can argue with me about it off mic, people. Also, today, Sayla announced the winner of our quick giveaway for the digital copy. It was our good friend Ray over at Last Sons of Krypton. Sayla announced it on our Instagram today, so that was fun.
Congratulations, Ray.
And then the only other piece of like real news is it's being reported that Supergirl season 6 is going to start filming, and I'm pulling it up now from Krypton Report's website, or not Krypton Report, from Krypton Site's website, is they're going to begin filming here September 28th, which is weird that they're going to be filming September 28th, but it's not going to premiere till mid-season. And it says the premiere will be directed by Jess Warren, and it says it will be done April 5th. So I don't know if it's from September 28th, which ironically is my mother's birthday, through April 5th is when they're filming, or if April,
I believe that's what it was.
And that means that, sometime, when will it premiere, considering that nothing is starting until next year. And then...
Well, last I saw, The Flash is supposed to be starting to film about September 22nd. Because as if you pay a little bit attention to things, Canada is doing very, very well under this pandemic, and they've turned things around pretty heavily, and they're getting things back on track and getting people to be able to go back to work and even start to film these CW shows.
Yeah, but my thing is it's talking about the Supergirl starting to film then, but the show doesn't premiere till mid-season. And it talks about Legends isn't supposed to start filming until October 5th, and it looks like it's going to have 22 episodes, and it's supposed to premiere in January. But Supergirl is supposed to be a mid-season, so we're looking at probably 13 to 16 episodes for this season.
Well, when it comes to TV and these shows, most TV shows, and that even includes the half-hour shows, let alone the 45-minute ones. It takes 8 days just about to film an episode. So with an episode, with an episode released every 7 days, typically, that's what breaks are for and everything during the holidays and the big sporting events and things like that. They need to get on the ball beforehand for them to have time to record, but them to also be able to put these shows into post-production before they can be aired.
So, and then I guess that means Superman and Lois should begin filming, because I know it was supposed to start in September as well sometime. So, but that's about all.
I wonder how many episodes that show is going to have. Yeah, but we get 2 super shows, and they both have maybe 16 episodes.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
One more news.
You have news, Solomon?
So, James, do you watch the Snyder cut of Justice League?
The trailer, yes. Yes, I have. Probably like 35 times.
Well, Solomon, okay? Solomon makes sure that everyone who comes to our house watches it. We've shown TT. We've shown
Good job,
Nana.
Solo.
So we're very proud of Solomon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting the word out there.
And the one more person I want to see it. It's my other grandma.
Yeah, my mom. Yeah. In the words of Kevin Smith, Solomon's doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
And that I want to have a Superman night with all my family.
Yep, we're going to have a family Superman night. He said that today, and I'm like, yeah!
Any excuse to watch more Superman.
So, with without further ado, let's jump into this film. Quick. So let's look at it real quick here. I'm pulling it up. Just some background. Superman Man of Tomorrow is directed by Chris Palmer, who is new to DC. He's done the Voltron series that's on Netflix. He's directed a lot of those, which I highly recommend anyone checking out. It's a great reboot of Voltron. It was written by Tim Sheridan, who also wrote Reign of the Supermen. And then the voice cast is Darren Criss as Superman Clark Kent, who people might know as he was the Music Meister on the Supergirl Flash crossover.
Yeah, in the musical crossover episode.
Zachary Quinto as Lex Luthor. You know, Zachary Quinto from Heroes and the Star Trek.
But who would love it?
I'm getting there, buddy. I'm getting there. Ike Amadei as Martian Manhunter. Eugene Bird as Ron Trope. Eugene was Diggle's brother, Andy Diggle, on Arrow. Brett Dalton was Parasite / Rudy Jones. He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ryan Hurst was Lobo. Ryan Hurst being Ope from Sons of Anarchy. So this guy, Solomon, right here. And then as Lois Lane was Alexandria Daddario. And I will tell you right now, for the most part, this voice cast could almost do live action.
But who voiced as Superman?
Superman's dad, Jonathan, was provided by Neil Flynn, most famous for playing the janitor on Scrubs.
Oh, awesome!
And his
I did not notice that was him.
Bellamy Young was Martha, and let's see, she's done things. Let's see if she's done anything I've seen. She was in an episode of Castle, a lot of TV, like one-offs. But yeah, she's worked. She was in one episode of Supernatural, so yep, CW tie-in. A lot of TV work, so good for her. Oh, she was Rachel in Mission Impossible 3. That was like, going backwards, that was the first film role I see on here.
And that.
So, and she was in, man, this is old. We Were Soldiers as Catherine Metzger.
Oh, wow.
But all I'm going to say is, yeah, for the most part, I think everybody in this voice cast can play the roles live action and be awesome.
But who else?
Well, the guy who played Perry White doesn't quite exactly look like him, that's for sure. That'd be a lot younger version of Perry White if that was the case.
So what do you want to say, Solomon?
How many movies that Parasite's in?
Parasite's just in the one movie. But yeah, I mean,
when it comes to the voice cast, the actor who also did the voice for Perry White, just as a nod, since it just came out and we both loved it, he provided the added dialogue for Rufus from Bill and Ted 3: Face the Music.
Yes, he did.
Whatever they couldn't port over from the original two films to build Rufus's dialogue, he provided.
He also was
you couldn't tell the difference.
Oh no, you couldn't.
It was great.
He was also the voice of Skrull on Wizards, which we just got done watching the DreamWorks animation Wizards, which is the third volume of the Troll Hunter series, which I highly recommend. He also provided the voice of Bruno Mannheim, Calabac, Perry White on Justice League Action, which, pulling this back around, the score for this film was done by, I have it here in my notes, Mr. Ripple. And he did the recent Deathstroke movie, Constantine City of Demons, the Batman with the Ninja Turtles, and Justice League Action, as well as Batman, all the Batman Unlimited stuff.
Oh, wow.
So, excuse me, pretty good pedigree all around of our performance. Sailor, you have to be quiet. So, with that being said, let's jump into the film. The film definitely takes a lot of inspiration. Like it's not based off any certain storyline, but you can tell that it has remnants of Secret Origin, Birthright, and American Alien.
I read 2 of the 3. I have not read American Alien yet.
I did when it first came out, and I just remember liking like one of the issues. I don't remember which one. I'm gonna revisit it soon, but I just being like not super impressed. And there's like maybe like 1 or 2 of the issues I liked. But I remember it. I remember when it was announced and it was coming, and they announced it on USA Today, in the USA Today newspaper, and I read the article. So I've known of it since before it came out, but never have I gotten around to reading that. Because it was written by Max Landis, who had that big moment where he had his scripts being picked up. And he was a hot commodity, and then all of a sudden, like, his scripts that were picked up were then, like, changed, altered, and then in his movies that did get produced were kind of flops, and then he kind of just, like, disappeared. But before we get into the details of the film, let's let Solomon, why don't you go ahead and just tell us how you felt about the movie altogether before James and I break it down.
James, I think the movie was really good. I like the new villain, Parasite.
The villain Parasite.
Yeah.
What else? What didn't you like about it, buddy?
I didn't like that he died.
Yeah?
Yeah. I didn't like that he turned into a zombie stuff.
Yeah, his transformation was he was pretty almost demonic in his transformation before he went like complete monster.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Solomon. All right. You wanna go and play Sissy, and me and James will finish up? Since you say what you got to say. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna stay here.
Okay, you want to stay? He wants to stay. He wants to stay.
All right.
So I like the film opens up. Well, first of all, like, what did you think of the animation style?
I mean, go all the way back to the beginning, like the stills and stuff. It was like looks like Archer animation. Once we saw it in
Flash style.
Yeah, and then once we saw it in motion, it was could tell it was a bit different from the clip and the trailers. But then when the film came out here, there's a excuse me, my voice is cracking. It was
Puberty's tough, man. Third puberty, it's tough.
Right.
We go through it again.
Puberty, yeah. The animation for the most part was like it was really smooth. It was really clean. There were some bits during the action that looked like I don't know, they had a hard time animating what they were trying to show. Just some of the flips and some of the interactions, and like when Superman was hit back by the gigantic parasite, the Godzilla parasite, and he was like flipping through the air, and then he hit the wall and like flipped, and then it was weird because like he flies back, he hits the wall, and then he flips off of the wall, and it's kind of like 2 incredibly fast front flips as he's falling to the ground, and then it's like 2 incredibly fast flips, and then he's flat until he hits the ground. So it was kind of weird, but
Yeah.
just a couple of things I noticed like that. But for the most part, the animation was really smooth. It's really clean. Martian Manhunter in his different forms looks really good. You know, Superman looks good. He almost has like a Brandon Routh build.
Right.
You know?
I was thinking about that too.
And why did Lobo fight with kryptonite?
Right. I was gonna get there. Yeah, we'll get there, buddy. So Lobo is in the film, and
Yeah. His animation, like, I like Lobo. I know you don't. You're not like an anti-hero type of character.
I like Lobo.
see, look, people, look. There are something that James and I don't agree on. Okay, for all you listeners out there, like Tyler and James disagree on everything. No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Tyler's not like the biggest fan of Deadpool because he's like an anti-hero. Who else we got? Lobo's one of them. And Lobo really only in the last, handful of years has been like in an anti-hero position. Before he was mostly like a villain.
Because too many of our villains anymore, we want to make them into anti-heroes because they get popular.
Right. And he's always been a bounty hunter, but and being a bounty hunter is like he could ride the line of being an anti-hero or just a villain, but coming from his background, like he's a genocidal maniac. He killed his entire race and he wipes out his children. He wipes out any parts of him that try to regenerate into another one of him. Like he only can accept one Zarnian and one of him. Like,
yep. Now, Solomon, you had a comment on an anti-hero. What do you want to say?
That Red Hood's an anti-hero too.
Yes, he is.
We know that. So.
And that's an anti-hero that Daddy, because of you, has actually really started to like.
Yeah, well, they've definitely given Jason Todd his due in the last number of years since Under the Red Hood came out, the show or the movie.
Jason Todd's my favorite Robin.
Your favorite Robin or your favorite Bat Family character because he's Red Hood?
My favorite Bat Family character.
All right.
Yeah, because Red Hood's my favorite. We have the Max.
We do.
For Arkham Knight.
But, all right. So now we'll get into the film proper, okay? You'll have to bear with us. James and I aren't used to this. It's only 5 o'clock, people, and we're recording. And that's not usually James and I's cup of tea, so we're getting used to this kind of thing. So,
well, it's kind of cool, that we're not like real tired and, by the end we're just like, okay, we're done.
It is. It's nice. So the film opens up where Clark is watching a horror movie, like a 50s B movie, where the villain turns out to be an alien and just starts crying. And I thought that was a really interesting place to start. And he doesn't have glasses. And then Jonathan picks him up. And in the next part, we see him with glasses.
Yeah. They don't specify, but I'm assuming it was at Pete Ross's house.
That's a good hit, Kenan. I'm behind that.
Orange and Lois.
But it was a boy.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't Lana.
It should have been Lana. But,
And they only looked like they were like 12, 13 years old too, maybe.
Yep. I agree.
Because of the next scene where Jonathan is talking to Martha and Clark has his glasses on and he's playing with his little pyramid.
So the cube reminded me kind of like the Birthright
Their
tablet thing he had. So
right. Yeah, they reveal that off screen, Jonathan and Martha, before the movie even picked up, before that night, that they had told him potentially, or that they told him what he was, that they found him, rocket ship, that he's an alien, and that's what freaked him out by watching the movie. And then they gave him that cube that must have come with him, and like he's playing with it, and he's trying to figure out what it is and what it does, and hopefully it has some answers for him, which he doesn't find out until later in the film.
It's a cool cut how we have him messing with his glasses, and you hear Jonathan and Martha kind of talking about his eyes, and he's got these glasses, and they talk about how they're supposed to protect him and stuff, and then it cuts to him putting his glasses on, getting ready for work.
Right, but you can probably picture the things that he's dealing with his eyes. He's had your Man of Steel X-ray vision flashes, and the random heat vision that might have started up, and the glasses, maybe he's using the glasses to kind of hide behind them for those reasons, that they're a mental form of protection for him for what he's experiencing.
Can I say that I laughed a lot that he's video messaging his parents to tie a tie? Because I laughed because my buddy Chase, who listeners may have heard on a previous episode that I re-released because Chase and I were supposed to discuss the Batman trailer, and he's been busy, so we haven't got to. One time we were at his house, some friends and I from college, we went to help him lead music at his church, and we were getting ready, and I came downstairs and he was watching How to Tie a Tie on YouTube. So seeing Superman doing this, I was like, Chase.
Nice. I'm not even sure that I remember what age. I'm fairly certain I probably learned how to tie a tie in high school, but not what for.
I always forget one step. There's one flip that I forget, so my ties are either really long, or I screw up and it just, because I don't.
And you got to undo it and do it again.
Yeah, I don't do it enough, so I just got to the point now where I tie them, and I just leave them tied.
Yeah, I still have to think about it when I do it, because I don't tie a tie every day. It's not like I wear a tie to work or anything. So when I do put one on and I start to tie it, I gotta line it up. Then I'm like, okay, here, through there. Okay, yeah, that's right. And
but so we see that, and he's talking about, I gotta go to the planet, the launch. I'm part of the team. Big deal. And he takes off, and we're like, all right, Clark's working for the planet. And this is a big first change, which I really like. Clark is basically like an intern. Coffee boy, whatever you want to call it. He's got the coffee, and they say, hey, coffee boy, and he shows up. And that's where our joke came from about the cinnamon, is he's talking to Mr. Troop, and he says, I had him add some cinnamon. It really helps liven the grounds up.
Yeah. He said, I had him add cinnamon to the grounds. I think it really wakes him up. And he gives him the coffee, and he gives everybody else their coffee, and then the whole Lex thing happens, which I'll turn back around on here in a second. But then he goes up to Rudy Jones, who's a janitor for Star Labs at this time, and he gives him his coffee, and Rudy takes a drink of the coffee, and he's like, oh, the cinnamon really wakes it up. And he's like, I thought the same thing. So it was a nice little joke in that opening in that sequence, that opening adult sequence there.
Well, really,
yeah.
I didn't know that Rudy did
I like that we meet Rudy here like that, and I feel like as the film progresses, I wish there was a couple more type scenes where we get one scene of kind of Rudy with trying to fight his humanity, and I kind of wish that we had gotten a little bit more. And I have a question to pose to you when we get towards the end, because watching it a second time, I kind of had a different thought. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And then we have Lex basically announcing all this. He's about to make this launch and what's going to happen. And Lois shows up, and basically we find out she's just a journalism grad student who won a scholarship and had won a Lex scholarship, a Luther Corp scholarship. And she basically points out that Lex just basically sabotaged and set up the program to fail from a government contract.
Yeah, which how she got the recording of him is pretty. I mean, they don't say how she did it, so I mean that's interesting. You know, given the fact that it's, like you said, this government contract and.
Yeah, it was like all off screen. And this film, okay, I'm going to say this right now. I like this film because much like the book of Secret Origins, and even this film is more so, it's small. It's not Superman taking on a huge army. It's not some elaborately. It's a really great modern origin tale of bringing Superman out and Clark becoming Superman. And I really appreciate this film for that.
And I like how the rockets just boost off and fly and just Clark gets the rocket ship.
Right. When Lex launches the space shuttle and then it's flying, and we hear, look up in the sky, and it's actually them talking about the space shuttle, and it's falling apart, and then Clark takes off, and he's wearing just like a jacket and a pair of like goggles, and Lex is like, crap. And
Lex is like,
Clark saves it, and Lex gets arrested, which is awesome. But everyone calls him the Flying Man, which is a lot cooler than the Blur. Just want to throw that out there.
Or
Yeah.
anybody can call him like Superman.
And this is really the scene where he puts the rocket into space, that he realizes that he is powered by the sun. Because like he's standing close to the sun and like he's energized.
Yeah, he like gives him power.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like, because he just all he's concentrated on is getting the rocket away from the city and back up out into space or up into the air, and he flies up with it. And when he releases it, then he turns around. He kind of looks like he seems to be stunned that he's like in space. That like he can see the curvature of the Earth and everything.
Yeah, it's really a great moment. It makes me feel like that's the first time he's ever flown that
into
high.
outer space. Yeah, that's what it makes me feel like too. And he's up there, and then he looks at the sun and he can start to like feel it. And I was like, that's really cool, because like he's outside of the atmosphere. He's beyond the clouds and beyond our air and our atmosphere, and he's getting like the full force of the sun's radiation on him in space without anything blocking, anything being in the way. So this is kind of like the first time too that he realizes like how the sun is really charging him and powering him up.
And it's just a subtle, easy way of him doing that without it being like too over the head. I was going to say this a minute ago, I really like how bright this film is. Like just everything is bright. Metropolis, as we go through it, really looks like a futuristic city, like the city of tomorrow, which is what I really like to see.
Kind of like the animated series did.
Yes, what I'd love to see more in a live action, like I said, it'd be kind of interesting to film, like for like your major city, like your skyline and stuff, using like Dubai and stuff like that, where it's really different architecture, and then like digitally clean it up and like add things and change things to make it feel like a city, an American city, but really making it feel like something else.
Right.
What are you doing? You're not supposed to have those down here.
Yeah, the city was pretty cool. It's kind of cool. And then the next thing they go into the Daily Planet, and that's where Perry White reveals Lois Lane to be a new recruit reporter. That she's part of the team, and that she was a grad student, and she wasn't a reporter before then. At least, employed by the Planet. So, and I really liked Perry White's.
Perry White. They all hate you.
Yeah, like that couldn't have gone better.
No, like what you're saying, like yeah, she was a grad student, and this story is really kind of Lois and Clark coming up together, but she's just like one step ahead of him. Instead of being like she's been a reporter big time already and Clark's coming into the fold, this really is just her being one step ahead of Clark. Yeah.
I mean, she comes out the gate extremely strong by taking down freaking billionaire Lex Luthor in the space scandal. But so she is a reporter, and she is one or two steps farther along than Clark, but definitely cut her teeth with a great story, and got her name probably national and worldwide right out the gate. Like, so that would make Lois Lane this very tenacious and big name to look out for coming up, because she took down one of the biggest scandals ever.
Well, as Clark says, the most powerful person on the planet. Now we get the first time that Lois and Clark interact is in the copy room, and Solomon.
Well, that's interesting. Well, that's interesting though. That's interesting, though, that he says the most powerful person on the planet with, knowing what he can do himself. He doesn't consider himself the most powerful person on the planet.
This version of Clark Superman is very humble, and I like that. Solomon, why don't you tell James and everybody listening, what picture did Lois have with all of her papers? Who else was there?
She had a Batman picture, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, with a Post-it on it too that said "nice cape."
And I think that's kind of funny because that's where they get the idea for the cape.
Well, what's interesting is, go ahead.
I was going to say, just keeping with that thread. Later, Martha makes the reference of seeing the pictures of Batman from the tabloids, and that she thinks capes are cool.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to bring up too. It's the same thing. It's the same conversation. She says I got the idea from that nice Batman guy I always see at the checkout. Like, so this isn't the version of Batman where we get in the animated series where she's like we don't want them to confuse you with that crazy Batman guy from Gotham City or whatever, like. So when and if we get a Batman that exists in this same world, like, how's he going to be in comparison to what we've got to Batman from before? Something else we didn't mention, I wanted to mention with Rudy was Rudy's talking about Star Labs, and he just brings up a couple of things. He brings up super speed because he's talking about how Star Labs is researching all the things that we are hearing about now, and he brings up super speed. I think he brings up super strength, and he says all this alien stuff. So
Right.
I think they had a reference to the Flash. So I think most of the heroes in this world, they obviously are expanding, or maybe they have an idea to expand. But even though this movie is only focused on Superman and in Metropolis, they're not bringing anybody in, but they did drop a couple of minor hints, and that picture of Batman, a couple of minor hints that there is other things and other people and other heroes out there.
Which was going to be my question to you is, without going a lot, do you think that this is the film that you would want to start maybe a new continuity?
I would say the way that it was all done, the introduction of Batman, just like a couple of little Easter eggs, a couple little hints. They brought in Martian Manhunter. They did discuss the cosmic side because they brought in Lobo. He talked about Kryptonians and Zarnians and Martians. So they did kind of open up the idea of the cosmic side. I think it would be pretty cool if they use this to springboard more characters. Focus on those characters in their own films, their own stories. And same thing, just drop a couple little Easter eggs, like the next movie being, a Batman movie or a Flash movie.
I'd say a Flash movie.
A
Flash movie in this universe.
We've had plenty of Batman.
A Flash movie
say
in
the
this
Flash.
universe. But like you said, just little Easter eggs, and I like the tone of this film. And it's a nice, how the other continuity was really dark. This is bright, and I like the idea of continuity.
It wasn't dark. It was serious. They had more of a serious tone. I would say.
But I mean, even like the colors, I'm just saying, were darker. Like this is a very vibrant,
Yeah.
And we don't have a animated series or anything. The closest we have is Young Justice, that hopefully we'll hear about at Fandom. So it'd be great. Now to jump back into where we are in the film.
At least the subtitle of what season 4 Young Justice is going to be.
Yes.
And in that, Batman is a little bit he's my favorite.
I know you like Batman. It's cool.
Yeah.
I
mean, just real quick before we dive back in, I am hoping, because Young Justice season 3 ended over a year ago. I feel like, anyways.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close.
Yes.
Well, because this month is 2 years for DC Universe, and Young Justice was one of the early things they used in early. Yeah, so it has been over a year since Young Justice season 3 was done. So hopefully they're well into production on season 4, and hopefully we'll get some information on that come this weekend. Crossing my fingers. Okay, back to the movie. Back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So Lobo shows up, and here's the one mystery. After watching it twice, we don't know who hired and sent Lobo. Because they said there's a bounty on the last Kryptonian, and Lobo's just as surprised to be there that Clark, has powers. Because, he says, "Are you sure you're from Krypton?" And Clark goes, "Kansas, actually." And he's like, "Well, something in Kansas made you strong."
Right.
And so we don't know who sent Lobo, like who put the bounty on the last Kryptonian.
Yep. Yeah, that is interesting. just the whole Lobo interaction, the fight. You know, he comes in. It's on the news that something's heading for Earth, and Superman flies up to intercept, and it ends up being Lobo. And yeah, he's talking to him about. He calls him a Kryptonian. He doesn't even know what a Kryptonian is. He lets, or he says, I've never met a flying Kryptonian, and yeah, and then they get into their fight.
Exactly. And this is the first time that Clark had heard the term Kryptonian. Like, he's like, what? He's like, hey, I ain't never seen no flying Kryptonian. And Clark's like, excuse me? Baking powder? Kryptonian? What? So I just found that interesting. You know, the fact that this was Clark's first time hearing that name. And now, as you know, he'll hear it again later from Martian Manhunter, but this is his first time hearing it. And it's just interesting, you know? That the first time he hears it is when he's being hunted by Lobo.
So they get into a pretty knockdown, drag out fight here. They go from building to building. I mean, it's pretty intense. They're causing some damage, some structural damage. They go. I mean, they're flying through the air. They're crashing into the ground. Superman's re-entry burns off all of his clothes.
That part was hilarious because both the kids are like, don't do that. Don't want to see this.
Yeah.
But
Superman's naked.
Yeah, both kids were like, no, Daddy, that's dumb. So
Lobo gets the only real language in the movie.
As it should be. As it should be.
He's definitely the character for it.
Yeah.
And the fight was pretty cool. Superman's fighting him. He knees him in the face, and then he smashes his head into the ground. And he smashes his head into the ground so hard, the parking lot just
obliterates.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense, super powered fight.
And you have to think that this is probably Clark's first time actually ever really fighting anyone with superpowers.
Well, fighting almost anyone, period. I mean, since the time he was 12 years old, he could lift a tractor with one finger.
I mean, which would be dope, but
Yeah, so it's in Smallville before there were meteor freaks and he had some powers, they wouldn't let him do anything. In Man of Steel, when kids are bullying him, he has to hold back because he knows what he can do. He can't do anything because, potentially he could kill somebody. One punch and these people could turn into a red mist. So
this is true. You're right. You're absolutely right.
So he's never fought anybody before. More than likely, So he did pretty good.
I mean, yeah. I do like how he, like you said, when he flies down on the re-entry, he stops right above Lobo and goes, "You're right. This was the more fun part," and then just pops him in the face.
Yeah, knocks him out.
I do like that Lobo pulls out a machine gun that shoots knives.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
And he has a place on his bike that pops out cigars.
Yeah, and he also had a storage of electric alien leeches or something.
Yeah, and Clark's using his heat vision to not, get rid of them. And I mean, and what's interesting about the fight is during the fight, Lobo has a kryptonite ring. Why does Lobo have a kryptonite ring?
That was interesting. And he did say, oh, what did he say?
He says that your planet was the reason for, like, destroyed or whatever. I thought that it was, you know, it was your destruction. Something like that.
Yeah, but he actually, like he wanted it. You know what I mean? It made it sound like he went and took a chunk of Krypton and carved a ring out of it.
Right.
Like the idea that Kryptonians were responsible for their own destruction. That from his perspective, the fact that he destroyed his entire race, and that Kryptonians did the same thing. They destroyed themselves. Like, in his twisted mind, it seems like that was something that he would like, because they destroyed themselves. I'm gonna get a piece of Krypton and have it as a friggin' piece of jewelry.
Right.
You know? Because there's no reason for him to be like, oh, Krypton, you know, this is gonna hurt you. It was. He didn't act like surprised when it weakened him, when it affected him or anything, but he also didn't act like, yeah, well, makes sense that this is that, you know, that this would do this to you.
It was very interesting. That's all I'm going to say. It was just very interesting that happened. Now,
but they bring it back around for a couple of reasons later on, too.
They do. And it's interesting that, is there kryptonite on Earth? That's a question that we ask, because Lobo brought that with him. And it doesn't seem like Clark has ever encountered any kryptonite until that moment with Lobo.
Yeah. Well, in this version, we don't know, is this a version like Richard Donner, where Clark flew through space and chunks of Krypton made it there? Or is this like Man of Steel, where it would have to be like created? Because he was sent through a portal, you know, and from the other side of the galaxy, and the chunks of Krypton, you know, didn't come with him at the same time. So what were you asking, Solo?
All right, Solomon, what do you want to say?
Parasite turned really big. Like, he gets all kinds of spikes.
Yeah.
Which is a interesting way that Parasite's created from a grenade that Lobo throws that explodes in Star Labs with like a purple energy-sunking goo that, you know, molds with Rudy.
Yeah, it was interesting the way the
and that's how, you know, Parasite is created.
Yeah. Created from that alien goo. They did kind of give like some sort of little explanation as from Lex's perspective. He gave some sort of explanation, but it was kind of just kind of off of his head, you know. There was no research done on it, on Parasite or anything. It did, when Parasite does grow, I was like, and when they did a close up of the face and everything, I was like, man, it's Godzilla. Like, and it looked just like that Godzilla film from 1998. Yep. Like the mouth, the chin, and everything. I was like, man, that thing looks just like Godzilla from that 90s movie.
The Americanized Godzilla.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're exactly correct, because I even had that in my notes. Like, because what's interesting is, so going a little discussion here about Parasite for a second. We've seen Parasite in different animation. Haven't seen him recently in any of these films. He starts out very human, and he looks just like kind of a diseased man. Kind of remind me a little bit about how Blight looked in Batman Beyond, with like when he was sick with like the patches and stuff of skin.
Okay.
And Solomon, you know, he really hated like when Parasite would touch people and like absorb all their energy. They'd look like dried zombies.
Yeah, they'd look like mummified people.
But then once he got to Lobo's cage and like he attacked Lobo's cage and he hit that, that's where like it was the catalyst to start to turn him more like the lizard looking creature. And then from that point on, the more energy he got, because, you know, I thought about, well, maybe it was because he touched the aliens, but it was like he touched the energy around Lobo's cage. And then from then on, when he got more energy, he kept getting more and more like monstery.
Right. Well, it was like so it was an alien goo that had changed him into what he became, into the parasite. So, like, yeah, the more energy he absorbed, and it was that high voltage electricity from that cage that he was absorbing that eventually did, change him into that, I don't know, reptilian or xenomorph looking creature.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid between like Xenomorph and Godzilla is what it looks like.
Yeah, like the only thing that I just went with it, you know, the transformation and stuff all the way
so
to
did
the
I.
end.
Yeah, I mean, so
the
did
one
I.
thing I didn't like was how it changed his legs to frickin' little peg legs. He was running on little peg legs instead of like changing his feet into some kind of amphibious reptilian style foot where the heel is up, you know, kind of thing, running on the toes, that type of thing. Change it into some kind of just like little peg legs sticking down. I was like, that's weird.
Yes.
Like that was a terrible animation choice right there.
I noticed that more the second time watching it, and I was not happy with that. Okay, so one thing during the fight that helps bring Lobo down, we hadn't mentioned yet, was Martian Manhunter shows up. And he had been tailing Clark in his human Sean Jones form. And he shows up and reveals himself, but he reveals himself in his straight Martian form. Not his more humanoid Martian form, but like his actual Martian form. And I thought that was interesting and odd at the same time. But he says later that it was to try to gift Clark time and to offer Lobo something of equal value, being that Jean perceives himself as the last Martian. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Jean Jones' characterization in this movie was pretty spot on, I feel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I loved it. And I thought it was great. I thought that they could have gave us... I liked that's who Clark is with. Like, they paired them kind of together to tell this story. Solomon told me today that it should have been called Superman versus Parasite and not Superman Man of Tomorrow. He didn't like that. I thought that was kind of funny. But
well, everything's not the person versus person.
yeah, Solomon. Not everybody fights.
I did like Martian Manhunter. Like I said, his portrayal was spot on. I like how he interacted with Clark and his family. The interaction with Lobo. How he. I thought, I was like, why are they gonna incinerate him in his first appearance, you know, when Parasite used heat vision, and like part of it was a psychic projection, so that way he could recover, which is what he explains later on after he shows up again.
Yeah, that threw me. I literally was like, I literally stopped and was like, no.
Right. So what did you think? What did you think about the super suit? The suit, how it was created.
So I like the whole Martha loving the cape, and she put the cape on it. Because earlier we saw the scene where Clark was, he tried on like his sheet as a cape in his room.
Right after he saw the picture of Batman with the post-it on it that said "nice cape."
And then when he flew out, it came off. It does go back to being Martha that creates it with the blankets. And they say they went through 16 bandsaw blades to try to cut the material. And she hopes that, with all his activity, because they can't afford to keep buying him nice clothes for him to tear up.
Yeah, which I like. I like that. We went through 16 bandsaw blades. Like that's a lot of blades to cut fabric. So she's like, maybe I don't know if it'll hold up to what you're gonna put it through, but it burned up 16 blades, so it'll withstand quite a bit.
So I'm cool with it. I mean, seems to be like everyone's favorite is his mom made it for him, and which is fine.
It's fine as long, in my opinion. I mean, the idea of the bioelectric aura is an old school idea. So it's like okay, sure. Even if that was the case, of bioelectric aura and his clothes are fine, wouldn't he have to replace his cape constantly from getting burned up, from getting torn up to shreds? You know what I mean? It's not like he has a bubble around him. So I like the idea. I'm okay with the idea that it's Kryptonian fabric, that it's an alien fabric, and it can withstand. That just the clothing itself could withstand the anything that we can throw at it on Earth. You know what I mean? Like a freaking nuclear bomb can't destroy the clothing.
Right.
So the fact that the material is still alien, it's okay that Martha made it, that it's not a Kryptonian suit given to him, that it's not Kryptonian armor that he found, on Brainiac's ship or something from the New 52.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's still alien clothing. It was just his mother made it for him.
It's a blend of alien material with Martha's good sense of sewing.
Yeah, Martha's homegrown sensibilities.
So which in that same vein, the S goes back to meaning S for Superman. Because, Lois name Luther says, what's the S for? And he says, Superman.
Well, yeah, I mean, and also we didn't get we didn't get very much interaction with him learning about his past at all. There was some, but very little. And it wasn't like, this is our family crest, this stands for this or that. He saw it. He saw the crest. He saw what it was. He learned about what happened to Krypton, kind of, and that his parents, sent him away and saved his life. And then that was it. So, I mean, to him, really, it's still an S, and Lois gave him the name of Superman. So, yeah, I mean, to him now at this point, it stands for it's an S that stands for Superman,
which I like. I'm cool with, let it evolve. Let the story, because this very much is a great. He doesn't know who he is yet.
Well, which follows the vein of Man of Steel. In Man of Steel, he had no clue who he was until he found that Kryptonian scout ship. All he knew was he was an alien. And in this, that's all he knows. Until Lobo tells him he's a Kryptonian, and Martian Manhunter activates his little pyramid cube. His little pyramid, whatever.
I love when he shows up, and Martha's like, "Well, if John's staying, there's sheets in the hallway." I'm just like, "All right, Mama Martha, good job."
Right. It's so homely. You love it.
Yeah.
It's a very good. This movie is a very good blend of like everything we've almost a lot of things we've gotten to this point of Superman. You know, including like I've brought up these similarities to Man of Steel and stuff. Like, it's a very good blend of some of these things that have come up.
It's like the perfect way to reintroduce the character for a new generation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is a very good introduction, and like you said, it's the way that the story developed. There's so much room for it to grow and evolve.
There's no Jimmy Olsen, like Clark kind of was taking that role, and maybe potentially like Jimmy gets tired if they do a sequel because Clark's moved on from being Coffee Boy.
Yeah, he's now a full-fledged reporter, and now we got this young intern photographer, Coffee Boy, who's Jimmy Olsen.
Let's see. Let's move. We kind of been hopping around, but basically, Clark has his battle with Parasite. After he gets his costume, he gets his powers taken. We talked about like with Martian Manhunter.
See, now with this story, his interaction with Lois. So he doesn't interact with Lois a whole lot as Clark or a whole lot as Superman. He does a little bit of both. But the interaction she comes up against with Clark is his hand is cut open by the glass. Like, so she has no reason to believe or speculate that he's anything other than Clark Kent.
Which I like that scene. Like, she busts into his, he wakes up, the day after. They find out that he had, was on the scene and had given a statement to the police. She comes to check on him / fire him, is how she puts it, from Perry, because he didn't show up. And yeah, he had cut
Which
his
is
hand.
nice, but she's like, I think I got the translation right.
And it's kind of this weird thing where she like wants to share the story with him, and he's like, "Are you trying to steal my story?" And she's like, "No, I want to share the byline with you." And she gives this whole speech about looking for someone who knows more to help you, and that inspires Clark to go to Lex for help to fight Parasite. So it's a really cool scene, and like them two kind of, like you said, connecting a little bit more. And I think it's very true to Lois. She's very strong, but yet at the same time, very much in this isolated and alienated, just because it seems like nobody else wants to deal with her.
Yeah.
At the planet.
So, I mean, it's, how, I've spoken about how I think, these days, the idea that she works in a desk across from him all day long, and they work together out in the field all day long, and then she comes face to face with Superman on such a regular occurrence. Like, it's a disservice to the character that she doesn't realize that he's that they're one and the same for so long.
Right. I mean, they even had to invent in the comics that, the glasses were Kryptonian made that gave a low hypnosis, that people who saw Clark were like under this like light hypnosis, so he looked different.
Exactly. So like Man of Steel, the idea was for her to find out who he was right away. So like in this, they run them parallel, and they're just close, But I think like if we were to make a sequel, this isn't quite like even like Superman the movie, and then go to Superman 2, where in the sequel she finds out who he is. I'm not kind of like running those parallels to it, but I think that if they were to write it, I think they would actually make it very natural and organic, and not do like 3-4 movies or something like that where Lois doesn't know he's Superman.
Right.
You know, I think that trope is old school, and it's a disservice to the character now.
I like that
Like
she's
that-
in on it. It gives her more to do.
Exactly.
Especially like you said, once they start interacting more.
Like she didn't even get her interview in this.
Which I love.
In this movie, she didn't even get her interview, which every other interpretation, she gets an interview right out the gate. He wants to do the interview, but
He's messing
this
with
or
her.
that, he has to leave.
Well, I mean, she talks about, she's supposed to have an interview. She's like, right now, she's talking to Clark saying, the Superman's on the roof waiting for me to do this interview. It's a power move. I'll have to cancel. And then, he'll be begging me to reschedule. And then she talks about going to interview Lobo. Well, then at the end, she comes up all the stairs, and there's Martian Manhunter and Superman talking. Martian Manhunter leaves. Superman says, I have to go, Miss Lane. We'll have to reschedule. And he flies off. And then she comes down.
The power move on her.
And she comes downstairs, and she's like panting, goes to her desk, says, where's my calendar? Says something to Clark, because there's a beautiful scene of, it's like you see Lois, like from behind Lois, see Superman fly by the window. The camera then turns, we're looking at Lois, and then the door behind her, Clark appears and asks how her interview went. And she says, the other thing I told you about power moves? Well, yeah, they work. And then she's like, you must see my planner. And then that's the end of the film. Like, that's where it ends. So I thought that was really unique. But as far as
the climactic battle.
Yeah, we'll move it back to Parasite. So let's before we get back to Parasite, Lex, Clark gets Lex out. Lex, immediately is talking to him like, "Oh, you're powered by the sun," because Clark's talking about, I need help getting up into space into sun because I'm depowered. And they're trying to figure out how to defeat Parasite. There's a great quote in the battle before they go for the final climax I wanted to bring up, is where Superman, I gotta use the terms right, Superman turns to Lois and says, "You're right about my origins, but not my intentions. Please, don't run your story. It should be me that tells it." I thought that was just a really great quote.
Yeah.
But I forgot to mention that. But anyways, so Lex is like, he has a plan with Lobo and Superman, how they're going to go and defeat, Parasite. Basically, if Superman, they're going to use the weaknesses. Like anyone that he touches and absorbs, Parasite will absorb their weaknesses. So they have the kryptonite ring that Luthor puts basically in a gun to shoot. And we find out that it only lasts for so long. Or no, I'm sorry. Reverse that. Lobo has the ring, goes up and starts just pounding Parasite in the head with the ring. And Lobo gets squeezed and crushed. And that's when they find out that the weaknesses only last for so long with the power he absorbs. Clark flies out there to give him, as he says, a weakness so that Lex can go and take the ring from Lobo, and that's where Lex puts it in his gun, then basically decides what he wants to do. Excuse me. Who he's going to turn on, because, Lex is only after himself.
Yeah, he's only out for himself. Yeah, he uses the ring and he puts it in this what did he call it? Magnetic amplifier or something like that. And he amplifies the radiation basically from the kryptonite ring and uses it to blast Superman. Like he tries to take the opportunity to take out Superman at the same time.
Because that's
a very Lex move. Yeah. So it's the fight is actually we're kind of to the fight we're with Parasite again. This version of Parasite, like, they do express that there's like these limits, like time where he has the powers and where he has the weaknesses. but it doesn't seem like he's becoming weaker as time goes on because his hunger for power is growing.
And his physical body is still massive.
Yeah, and he doesn't revert back. So that was kind of a weird thing. I mean, I thought it was weird the first time he transformed into this giant creature and they were fighting. But the fact that he continues to absorb and then grow, and then how the battle ends, I'm like, well, I guess if they're going to do that in the end, then, you know, it's okay that it went this way. You know what I mean?
So
You don't find it until the end. You don't find that out until the end. So you're like,
So
okay.
I have a question about the end here in a second. So we have a really cool scene where there's people on the bridge who are like throwing stuff, yelling, and Lois is reporting. And basically the people's perception of Superman is human and that Parasite is an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman comes over and starts basically, no, this is Rudy Jones. Something happened to him, and he is human. And he's like, I'm the alien. And he starts talking and explaining everything. And it's really great because we see some cutscenes of Rudy, like, as a combat veteran. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. And that's where I feel like I would have liked a little bit more time with Rudy. Because we also find out, like, he's got a daughter in first grade and another child on the way. And it's very heartbreaking because we get that story. But so in the final battle, you know, Clark starts talking to Rudy like, if you have absorbed my powers and my memories, you also absorb my heart. And he's trying to appeal to him. And Parasite sees a woman and a daughter on the bridge that looks like his wife. Makes him think of his wife and daughter. And this got me thinking because they had a power plant, was a plant or whatever set to explode. And
I think they ended up doing like an overload on the plant. And
Parasite goes to absorb it. And the second time I watched it, because the first time I kept getting distracted because I have children. The second time I took it, and did you take it that Parasite was going to stop it to protect everyone?
He might have gone to try and absorb the energy, because if the plant were to explode, it would, who knows how much of Metropolis it would take with it.
And because if you go back and watch it, because how I took the ending was Superman appeals to his heart about, you have my heart, Rudy, this is not you, this is who Rudy Jones is. And he sees that lady and her child, and he thinks about his family, and it's going to overload. So he goes to absorb the power to stop it, which is what causes him to overload and die. And he basically...
and the plant burns him up. Like,
yeah, he turns to stone.
He turns to ash. I mean, it burns him up, and it incinerates him. He's a giant statue of ash, and then it blows away.
And it was just powerful. And I was just like, it was crazy that, that, because it also makes, once again, it's a very small film. It's not really Superman who goes out so far as the physical champion, but as the one who shows through strength of character and is able to have Parasite turn around and help save people. And of course, Lex tries to run away, but he gets nabbed by Martian Manhunter, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's one of Superman's greatest powers. Is, even though he can withstand anything, and he can, punch anything and anyone, and the idea that Superman can do anything, his greatest power is his heart, his humanity. I mean, heck, it's what they use every season on Supergirl. She always appeals to everybody with a big speech.
Yep, because it's cheap to film.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We need Supergirl to win. How? Just have her talk to everyone. Right. Awesome. That's cheap. And roll them.
Right.
With that
they need to do a little bit more punching than they have, but yeah, essentially, yes, that is the case.
With that being said, I just want to give a quick shout out. I discovered a podcast that's called, and I'm pulling it up right now. Where'd it go? Voices from Krypton. There is a 7-minute interview they did with Brandon Routh. I highly recommend everyone check it out because just listen to him talk about the character, especially at the end, is what makes him such a great person to embody the role that he understands Superman. And I'm so glad that we got him again. But so, that basically, we kind of skipped around a lot in the film, but that basically sums up.
Well, what I wanted to bring up earlier, you were talking about Sayla being your little Kara Danvers. Before the very end, the 3 aliens are on the roof. Superman, Lobo, and Martian Manhunter are all together, and they're talking. They're having a conversation. Lobo talks about how being the last of something raises the bounty. There's always the last of something, but it's never the case. So Jean asks him and finds out that there's other Martians out there. And he even says that there may be 1 or 2 Kryptonians floating around out there. I mean, we could potentially get a Supergirl. We could get a Zod and some other things in this version's film continuity.
I thought about Argo City even, something along those lines.
Right.
Because like I said,
Kandor.
I like
the bottle city of Kandor. I mean,
it's floating around. I like this version. I would be completely okay with continuing this film and having a sequel to it. If it's not a new continuity, just give me like a trilogy of this Superman and of this, series, because I feel like they set up a really good.
Yeah. And you know what? You said trilogy. I think when you even think when people think and they say trilogy, I think it still limits you. You know what I mean?
It does.
As long as they keep coming out with compelling stories, give me 4, 5, 6 Superman movies in this same vein, and give us more characters, more villains that we haven't seen in so long on screen or ever on screen.
That's why I love that they did Parasite. He's such a easy villain to do, but has a very strong story. And especially for a Superman first starting out, because I meant to mention this. On the bridge, Parasite goes to punch the bridge and destroy it, and Superman flies and stops his fist, which of course, he's touching Parasite and causes him to, be drained. And it would just show that he was putting himself out there to save people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I am going to be picking it up on Tuesday, my physical copy, and I will be watching it again and even paying more close attention. I mean, the first time I watched it, same thing. I got kids. They're not as young as yours, but mine are still young and they still need me for things. And so same thing. Both times I watched it, I didn't get to just 100% sit there and watch it so I'm sure I'm missing something here or there.
Yeah,
I think we covered it pretty good, but
I'm sure there'll be more that'll fester.
Yeah, so
that's a high recommend.
Looking to check. Yeah, I'm definitely looking to check it out again this week. Later on this week after I pick it up on Tuesday.
I give it an 8. And I think mainly I give it an 8 because I'd give it a 9 if excuse me, there were some things that were done differently on the Parasite side, like. But other than that, yeah, it's a solid like 8.5. I love everything with Superman.
Oh yeah, and it's this is a great origin story. Tons of room to evolve. They really nailed the character. They really nailed a lot of the characters. The cast was great. The story was good. The route that they took with Parasite, like I said early on, and especially when he first grew into Parasite, I was like, I don't like this, you know. But then come the end, when he does that and he gets incinerated, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense that if this is the route that he's going, he's becoming this powerful, he's doing this, he's growing, and there's no reverting back. Like, it makes sense that they went this way, and I kind of I backed off of it. That I was like, no, I don't like this. I was like, I accept this.
Yes, I agree. And like I said, also it's very interesting that we don't know who sent Lobo. So that's
Yeah, there's still
Well,
there's still more out there. There's a mystery left. There's a mystery left on the ground here that could be further explained in a sequel.
Lobo makes the joke like, I killed all my people, and then he goes, nah. Because, like, throughout the entire movie, there's a through line of kind of him being kind of an unreliable narrator. And he'll say something that we kind of usually know that is true, but then he'll be like, nah, or he'll say something that is completely false. So it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Like, when he said nah, I was like, okay, Lobo, at that point I was like, Lobo's not one to back off. He fully owns that he that he destroyed his entire civilization. Like, that's something Lobo owns up to. So why he went nah and everything, I was like, oh, why did they do that? You know?
Maybe they just don't want that dark of a Lobo character where, like you said, they want to move him in more of an anti-hero-ish, and if he's that evil, preceded by people.
I mean, unless they just, well, I don't know. Like I said, he's not one to hide it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, even unless he's doing it for a deceptive reason, I don't know why they would have chose for him to backtrack on that, because that's kind of like a mainstay of his character. Like, he killed his entire race when he was a child. Like,
it's messed up, but
yeah, like
All
he's
right.
been this way his entire life. That's his character.
Any other final thoughts?
No, pick it up, watch it. Let's keep DC going with this new line of feature films.
Yeah, don't wait for it to drop on DC Universe. Support this, because we don't know what the future holds.
Well, who knows? Like, how we didn't get our announcement that I can recall about DC Universe and the future of DC Universe, because we know the original content is going over to HBO Max.
That should probably,
but
hopefully, we'll learn something at Fandom this week.
Hopefully, because they did say that DC Universe is not going away, but the original content is moving over to HBO Max, which it makes sense. It gets more eyes on the stuff, because, let's face it, DC Universe is a niche service.
I just want to know about the old stuff.
But because...
Will Superboy and stuff like that be over there on HBO Max? Because...
Right.
I'm making my way through the old Superboy show, and... but...
Well, we know that part of the reason DC Universe isn't worldwide is because of the legalities when it comes to streaming rights for all these different properties, movies and TV shows in different countries. Like the streaming rights, that's a weird whole freaking web of nut stuff. So that's part of the reason why it didn't open up. But the fact that they added so many comics to it, that it's such an amazing comic reader, it rivals Marvel Unlimited. And I think that if they move everything streaming away from DC Universe and put it all on HBO Max, it will open that up to be able to be DC's comic reader, and keep the price point, because it's well worth it.
Oh yeah.
Just for the comics alone.
If you buy 2 brand new comics a month, you're paying for your DC Universe.
Yeah. And just like Marvel Unlimited, it's so many months behind. I think Marvel Unlimited is 6 months behind, and I think DC Universe is a year behind in its comics that they put up. But which is fine. I mean, people are still paying, people are still reading. I definitely think that it needs to. It needs to open up to the rest of the world. And if it's just a comic reader, I'm okay with that, and I will not cancel it. I will continue to be a DC Universe and an HBO Max subscriber.
I agree.
So, this movie, who knows if it's even planned to go to DC Universe, or HBO Max when that happens. I am still planning on continuing to buy all of these animated films in physical form and using my digital code just like I have been. Nothing's going to change there.
Yep. I like having my physical copy because just like the other day, they were repairing my internet and it was out for 6 hours. And it was great to have physical media to pop in and watch. So that's James and I stand behind the power of physical media. So remember, everyone, keep your copies, because I don't want to get into a whole debate, but somebody explained it once, like, you don't own the digital copy when you buy something. You can't, because you can't pull it from, like, you don't download a file that you have when you purchase, like, digitally. You purchase the access to a digital file. So it's not like I can download it and then have that, like, I can pull it from my iTunes or wherever, and then if I want to share it or if I want to, edit it or whatever, like, it's locked. And it's not a file that I can actually use, like, with.
Right.
And I have to play it through only certain specific, means.
Yeah, certain avenues.
So you're basically paying for an access to a digital file. But that's neither here nor there. So, Superman, Man of Tomorrow, go check it out. Shoot us your response. Get ready for fandom, and it's coming the 12th. And remember,
look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look at the sky.